Morning, everybody. Look, we're back again. We're doing the morning coffee trip. We're going to show you a little bit about the outside of the SEMA areas here. There's like I said yesterday, there's like 37 million square feet of space here to go after, and most of it's inside. SEMA keeps growing outside more and more, so the outside area has turned into its own circus. So we're going to walk down one of the many rows here at SEMA outside and show you some stuff that's going on. Now, I'll be the first to admit, this has turned into a really heavy Chevy presence, a vintage Chevy truck presence, which is super cool. But I brought along our editor-in-chief, Terry McGean, who knows a lot more about Chevy trucks than I do, and he's going to kind of walk us through this with us this morning. So we're going to start out here with something that's really cool, and it just gets cooler from here. So let's start off here. Terry, let's talk about the car that we see on top of this rollback first. What is this thing?
Well, it's a Ferrari. It looks like a 308. It's heavily modified.
What's even cooler, I kind of think, is what this thing is sitting on top of. So let's walk down along here and take a look at this thing. Talk about lowered. What is this truck, first of all, that we're looking at?
So this is a Chevy that is has the look of a C50, C60. It's badged as a C50, and that was Chevy's medium-duty truck. They used a pickup truck type cab, but then different fenders.
Different grill, right?
Different grill, different hood, so they could put it on a heavier truck chassis. And what guys are doing with these trucks now is they're finding those medium-duty parts and building heavy-duty trucks with the old medium/heavy-duty parts to kind of tie it into the, in this case, the 67 to 72 Chevy truck era. And it's kind of a cool look. I mean, if you look at this truck and look at the cab, you'll see that's the same cab from a pickup truck of that era. But these fenders, and they came with that flare. I think a lot of people see that and they think that that was done after the fact, but that's how the medium-duty trucks were.
And as far as a rollback or a carrier of some kind, there seems to be a trend for these things right now.
You know, today a flatbed car hauler is a rollback, and the bed comes down, and they're easy to use. But back in the day, they were ramp trucks.
Static ramp.
Right. They just built a platform and put like a beaver tail on it, and then ramps that would pull out. Yeah. This obviously is a new build. This bed, it's really nice, and then the old true ramp trucks, the whole bed was ramp. This one's sort of like a cross between a modern rollback style bed with the beaver tail like a trailer, and it's real cool. It got a big pipe there. I'm going to guess this is a diesel in it.
The flare and just like sort of the reveal for the tailpipe is pretty cool. That's neat, and it kind of just matches like the holes, and there's a neat sort of circular kind of theme going along with this thing. It's really neat. Now, this is yet probably the third most popular Chevy pickup truck style that we're seeing at SEMA right now. Lay-in frame, giant wheel, probably airbagged. What's cool about this thing is the patina of it, and yet a new interior with the plaids. And the plaids are a big deal this year too, right?
Yeah, that's there was a lot of upholstery around that time that kind of had patterned fabric, and plaids were kind of something that in the 80s and the 90s we couldn't believe that they used because it just seemed so crazy, and now it's like, oh, that's actually pretty cool.
Now we're looking back like on the early 70s and the late 60s going, you know, our dads weren't that nerdy. Maybe they actually were pretty cool, right?
The truck's kind of interesting because I'm trying to determine if the patina is real. It looks like some of it is made, but they went through the trouble of putting the red oxide primer in the cab and the black on the front clip, which is how these trucks were.
That's either an incredible attention to detail or it's the real thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the front end. It looks like they might have made that patina. The bed actually looks like genuine patina. I don't know if they might have combined elements here, but if you look at the inside the tailgate and everything, that just looks all that scratching, and on the tailgate, I think it had the remnants.
That looks genuine.
Yeah, it had the remnants of maybe even a dealership sticker on the tail, so that's kind of cool. This one is cool because it's got like a factory paint scheme, but with this like modern putty type color. And you can see it's actually got metallic in it. And they left it kind of simple. It's got the regular bumper. It's got the standard tailgate with the stamped letters in it. You know, the Chevy two-tones in the 70s, that was super common and just sort of like a ubiquitous pickup truck at the time.
But again, this combination of lowered, giant wheels, probably airbagged if nothing else, and what looks like an LS with at least some dress-up kit as far as valve covers, probably handmade.
They look like fabbed valve covers covering up the coils, and then the intake is fab too, but that looks like something that's somebody's making, you know, a production piece. So this generation went from 88 up until the Silverado came out for 99. But I think people split these into two, because there's the earlier ones like this that have kind of the more plasticky dashboard and the different grille. Some of them have actual separate headlights. And then they facelifted it. This truck, again, it's got the same sort of proportions as an older truck. It's a real clean design, because the newer trucks are, they're more ornate, they're busier.
Yeah, right.
And they're bigger, I think. And you can just make one of these really slick. They are cheap. They're simple. A lot of these just came with a throttle body, fuel injected, small block. The engine bays are really clean, because the factory had made an effort to not run hoses and electrical harnesses over everything. They have very familiar Chevy parts in them. The suspension, you can get whatever you need. There's all kinds of drop spindles and the C-notch kits for the back if you want to really put it down. Yeah, it's easy and they're cheap, and you could drive a truck like this every day and not worry about it.
Now, we saved the best one, I think, for last this morning, you guys. So one of the things I will say is that we have to remember that the 70s are coming up on about 50 years prior now, right? So a 50-year-old vehicle is obviously going to be collectible. This thing that we're going to show you next is really the coolest thing, I think, out here this morning. Let's go over and take a look at this sucker. Look at this, Terry.
This is obviously some kind of a slide-in camper deal, although as slide-ins go, this one is custom huge. The truck is extra long.
Brown sugar, you see that?
Yeah, that's pretty cool, pretty cool. And the paint scheme is supposed to look like some of the decal stripe kits they had back then.
Check this out. This, again, lowered laying frame, giant wheels, skinny tires, a widened body, or I'm sorry, a widened bed, this giant slide-in. Let's call it a slide-in. It's probably on there permanently. It still has that slide-in look with the door that you take the tailgate off of to accommodate, you know?
And they've used like factory-style fuel doors for the accessory tanks that it must have. Notice that those wheels, those are probably one-off wheels. Those are made to look like wheel covers, full wheel covers that Chevy trucks had in the late 70s, early 80s.
It's really neat. And take a look at the paint up here. We were having a discussion about this in the office the other day about what these stripes might be called too. Now, some were calling them sundowner stripes. As a Ford guy, I would say the freewheeling package was sort of like the Ford's answer to these stripes and stuff. But this is sort of a modern take on that vintage stripe kit, and that was probably an option back then, right, of some degree?
This type of striping wasn't optional on a Chevy truck. However, some of the camper companies were doing stuff like that.
And just the way this thing is lowered like this, like if you take a look at this, I'm almost sitting at the same ride height as the seats themselves. So like I said, I'm sure it goes up a little bit, but probably not a whole lot, you know. Very cool. But all right, so we're done for this morning. We're going to come back again tomorrow morning as well. But we wanted to give you a little bit of taste of what was going on outside here at SEMA. So we'll see you tomorrow.